you guys do watch it, and it is absolutely blowing a gale out there. We had all these grand plans about amazing backdrops, Tyne Bridge, coastline, could be anything, but instead it's the Cronin family patch.
Yeah. The conservatory.
We're in the conservatory. One of the only places we can find that isn't either full of people on a Friday, well, they'll be having a drink, because we do often go to the pub to record these things, but or that isn't windy. So apologies for that.
We might be doing outside if Dom had his mics, but obviously Dom isn't here, so it's back down to our basic equipment of a tripod and a phone with no microphone. So
it is. A lot of you guys out there were asking on the last video, thanks for watching if you did, and thanks for commenting, about wanting us to do something at the, typical my phone goes off as well during this. We'll get that later. Should we cut that out or not? Just leave it in. They'll not mind, will they? Yeah, we'll leave it in. Right, I think people were asking for PSR. I think without Dom being here, who I know had some really strong views on it, we'll get his views on that, so we'll hold that video. But there was a few questions with regards transfers and the future and the summer and Bruno Guimaraes. So I think that's probably not a bad one. We'll do a bit of a video on our thoughts. Feels quite topical, Jordan, I would say, considering he's literally just been in the news, hasn't he, with the interviews?
Yeah.
Ahead of the, whenever you watch this could be after the England-Brazil game or could be before.
No, I'll be before.
Yeah.
Cronin Wi-Fi. Never lets you down. It doesn't usually, I'll say that now before we jinx it. Yeah, Bruno spoke to the media. I think it was at Arsenal's training ground on Thursday. Obviously previewing that England game. A very short press conference, like 4 minutes long. I know he done a longer version in Portuguese, but done about a 4 minute long press conference in English. And one of the questions he was asked was kind of about his Newcastle United future. It wasn't phrased that way, but if you read the quote, it probably looks like he was sort of referencing that. The direct question was, and this isn't factually correct, but the journalist who asked the question said that Newcastle have came out and said they need to sell big names this summer. How does that make you feel? How does that make you and your teammates feel? And Bruno answered the question, said he's not sort of privy to those conversations as such, but then spoke about how happy he was at the club, but then also said that, you know, you can't predict the future, but, you know, is very, very grateful for Newcastle United. And I think that's that quote. I know I tweeted out on my Twitter account, formerly known as Twitter, X now.
X, yeah.
I tweeted that out last night, which obviously again Thursday that was. A lot of fans were, you know, sort of read it as if he was sort of setting to leave. I don't think that was the case. I think if he's being realistic, no one can predict the future, no one at all. So, you know, Bruno said that, and then again just, you know, said that he's really, really happy with the club. What happens in the summer, who knows? I think it's going to be an interesting summer. Will Bruno be the man that goes? Will he go? We've had these sort of conversations between ourselves. Do we think Bruno will go up? So that's probably a good place to start. I know sort of your views on it. If you want to explain, do you think Bruno will go? I'm sort of unsure. I think not, but I think you think he isn't, unless I'm misquoting you.
No, I do kind of feel that way. I get frustrated in many ways with this narrative that's built among the Newcastle United fan base because of frustrations with what we'll talk about in the other video, PSR. And the narrative is just sell him, and then it'll open up the door to everything else. I don't know anybody who's decided to build a home like the Jordan Cronin family plan. built a home and took the foundations out and thought that would look better. Yeah. Why would you rip the foundations out of what Newcastle United are building? For me, Bruno Guimaraes is one of the crown jewels. It would be one of the last resorts I would have in my list, in my armoury this summer, would be to sell Bruno Guimaraes or Alexander Isak for that matter, or Anthony Gordon for that matter, or Tino Livramento for that matter. I think anybody else within reason is probably fair game. That's not saying I want or everyone should be available, but I think beyond those four, because of the future element with Livramento, what can be, Gordon, I don't believe is at his full potential yet. I still think there's more in the tank. I think it's incredible where he could go. Isak, is the real deal if he's given any sort of forward support, which he hasn't had at all. Wilson started 8 games or something this season. He's provided zero support, in honesty, to Alexander Isak, which has exacerbated the problems that he's had with his injuries. And then Bruno Guimaraes he's the man who stirs the pot in the middle. He's the cook. He makes everything happen defensively, offensively. The system works perfectly for him. He makes everything tick. He was the only Newcastle United player who I think will be guaranteed to start in any single other team in the Premier League. Isak's close, but probably not quite. But Bruno is the man. I don't see the point in everybody falling back on that idea as we have to just go and sell. And that journalist, whoever it was,
I'm not sure it was. I'm not going to. I don't know the name.
It's probably a little bit. It's probably built that question around just the general feeling that came out of that Darren Neal stuff from January and what fans have then talked about since. I don't think that is the plan. I don't think the plan is to absolutely cash in on Bruno Guimaraes, but there is that contract clause, which obviously changes things slightly. We don't know the full details of the contract clause. We've heard whispers and bits and bobs, and the suggestions that we've heard or I've heard is obviously there is a foreign clause, so it is geared towards him going to potentially Real Madrid. I don't know if PSG come into that mix. I've said PSG or the Stoke and horse. PSG are the one that the outsider, the one you've got to really watch out for, I think, because they're going to have a lot of money considering the astronomical wages that Kylian Mbappe is supposedly on, and will take a wage cut to go to Real Madrid for. Real Madrid, I think, maybe focusing on other departments. Barcelona
got nothing.
Could offer 7 players in return, which isn't going to satisfy anybody. Particularly not Newcastle United if it was a PSR plan to get rid of a key player. I don't think it's part of the plan. I think the plan is more to. I think the plan, from what I can gather, is to do a little bit of what they did last summer, and I think the hope is that they'll use some of the wiggle room they've got from extra sponsorship and extra and European and TV money, and do a little bit of wheeling dealing, very similar to what they did with St Maximin last year, and that will probably get them enough to spend in and around what they spent last year. Whether that's Miguel Almiron, whether that's Miguel Almiron plus another, whether it's not Almiron at all, because we know he doesn't want to leave. It's just he is quite a saleable asset, and there are interested suitors. Could it be Kieran Trippier again? Could it be Callum Wilson? Callum Wilson's stock is as low as it's been probably at his Newcastle United time, I would suggest, because the goals haven't been there this season, the impact hasn't been there. He's no longer in an England squad and he's been injured for most of the season. I don't see how that value's gone anywhere but down. So I think they'll try and do that. Then you bring it the equation with see the Longstaff links to Leeds from, I don't think they're amazingly reputable sources, were they? Or might be, now you read the Mirror actually, was it?
I didn't actually see it. I just seen other people reporting it.
Fancy me slaughtering a Reach title. It's not on now. Yeah, I think they'll try and do a bit of wheeling dealing. I think they'll switch some fringe ones on. That will be the plan. I don't think the plan is to take the crown jewels out.
Yeah.
Look, Bruno unlocks a massive door, and I can see why some people think that, but
who'd you replace him with?
you couldn't.
You
can't
can't
replace him. You'd have to. It's very much like the Declan Rice West Ham situation, so they couldn't replace him like for like.
Yeah.
They went and got a few players, and it doesn't always work this way because Tottenham did it with Gareth Bale. It's not a guarantee. West Ham actually did really good business.
Yeah, it did.
Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I mean, you speak to, I know a couple of West Ham fans, you speak to them about Ward-Prowse, for example, and you look at his statistics and you think, oh, that's worked really well. Speak to people on the ground who are actually watching them and he's not been very good. And it doesn't fit the system and it doesn't flow the way it should. And that was a good chunk, I don't know, 30, 40 million of that Declan Rice money. So it doesn't always work, but Kudus is the one that's the trade-off that's really worked for him. They've got Alvarez, who's been able to do that sitting role. So they've almost covered Rice's forward, offensive and defensive work with 2 players. And you can do that if you do well. Tottenham didn't do it with Gareth Bale, they did the exact opposite. It's not a guarantee that you get 100 million in, go and spend 150 more or 200 more and you replace it with enough quality in like-for-like positions. So I don't think it's the answer to everything. It unlocks PSR doors, but it doesn't. It doesn't unlock them to an extent. It would have to be a considerable amount considerable amount to really unlock it, considering Bruno with add-ons, and I don't know how this exactly works, but on the books exactly, but you know, it was a deal that reached upwards of 40 million if he ticked every single box, and I don't know what those boxes were. Nobody really does. We're not privy to those conversations. So does it really open up as much PSR wiggle room as many suggest? I think it opens a fair bit, but it doesn't. It's not 100 million PSR if you sold them for 100 million. And look, if they did sell for 100 million, I couldn't argue with it. Like, by the same token, if you get that kind of money for a player you've just paid 35 to 40 million for, it's an incredible deal. And I couldn't blame the player himself, were he to suddenly say, you know what, if it is PSG, yeah, I quite fancy that. Last 8 of the Champions League last season, they'll win titles. He knows France, and he's visited in 2 occasions, I think. Is it in the last 6 months he's been to Paris? And that's not even to do with playing. I think him and his partner do love that area. So I couldn't fault the lad if he wanted to go and win things. He's not young. I think he's 26 now.
So I think it's inevitable that Bruno will one day leave this football club. It's absolutely inevitable. Will it be this summer? I tend to agree with you. I don't think it will be. I think there's so many reasons why they shouldn't or why they should. Obviously the PSR issue, selling Bruno, it opens doors if that's a team only used, but he's such a key player to this team. As the term you use there, the crown jewels, you can't take that out. And look, yeah, you can't go out and sign players to replace him, but to replace Bruno, you have to do West Ham, and you have to go and sign on 2 midfielders. Plus, on top of the other positions, you've got strength as well. Newcastle's squad in many ways needs an overhaul. And okay, Bruno is probably the most sellable asset, but I think to get around PSR, I would look to sell fringe players, if you like, before I even went to the top. The likes of Wilson's, as you mentioned, Almiron. Look, could even sell a Sean Longstaff, because in terms of PSR, that's pure profit because he's came through the academy system. So there's so many different names off the top of your head I would sell before Bruno. But going back to the point, I think it's inevitable that one day he will go, because he is a top class player and will have aspirations to play for the likes of Real Madrid. I don't know if he's ever said that publicly, but you know, Brazilians.
He's not the type, was he?
But sort of Brazilians, you know, that sort of, yeah, they like to play for those top clubs. Have got their ambitions. Portuguese, whatever. It's so close to that area, and Real Madrid is literally probably the pinnacle of football in many players' eyes. And I think the thing with Bruno is he's actually got the capabilities to play for Real Madrid. It isn't a pipe dream. I could see Bruno Guimaraes in Real Madrid's midfield, and I think if there's any club in world football that would turn his head, it would probably be Real Madrid. You look at clubs in England again. This is sort of going away from the release clause, because we don't know if this release clause applies to English clubs, but how many teams in England can afford him? Probably Manchester City, which I think again he would fit straight in that midfield.
Liverpool, Manchester City. We don't know what Manchester United situation is, but I think the only one to potentially worry about would be a Manchester City. I think there's obviously Pep talked about him a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? Really?
Yeah. It sounds like he's teeing it up, but I think we'll probably go for Lucas Paquetá.
Yeah, he's made.
Before.
They might bring the band back together.
Well, I know, possibly.
It would cost them a lot of money.
It would, but I think, I mean, I think you've touched on it before anyway, it feels like the Calvin Phillips to West Ham deal almost is set up a Lucas Paquetá deal.
Yeah, was that the little sweetener?
Feels
it makes
like
you wonder if Bruno was top of that list. You'd think that sweetener might have come Newcastle United with, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But we read between the lines, which I think everybody has to at this stage going into the summer. Look, I think the summer, I think they'll be active. I think it probably won't be, as Eddie Howe suggested, a transformative one. I think there's only certain things that they can do, and I think that's possibly one thing that's come of this season. For everybody, and this doesn't just mean, it's not like a thing about fans. I think it's been for everybody, us, other people. You kind of get caught up and carried away in the takeover, the idea of what it potentially might lead to. I just think there's been a realisation this season that due to red tape in the Premier League, that it probably won't come as the promised land might not come as quickly as everybody hoped it would. And we were talking 3 years down the line. I don't think the club have done enough, in my opinion, in those 3 years. I think there's things that could have been done. I don't think it's been absolutely transformative, as was hinted at the very start. And I think Amanda Staveley's visions of fighting for top Premier League European titles within 5 to 10 years looks very, very, very optimistic at best. But you never know. Football's very transient. Things can change very quickly. Just ask anybody from the outside looking at what Newcastle United did last season. Just look at anybody and see what Aston Villa's done this season. Just look at Leicester, the best part 10 years ago. Things can change, they can flip.
But that again goes, well, we're going to leave the PSR conversation for a different day, but it's, you look at them clubs, you mentioned the three clubs there, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Leicester. Now you look at the news from Leicester this week, looking like a potential points deduction if they get in the Premier League next season. There's nothing clear around Aston Villa, but you hear noise out of Aston Villa saying, oh well, in the summer PSR rules, Newcastle United, PSR rules has been talked about for the last 12 months now.
Everton were upwardly mobile. Everton were a club that got taken over and were desperate to break into that top 6. Sure, did a lot of things right, did a couple of things wrong. The things they did wrong was spend a lot of money on the wrong players. They trusted the wrong people to buy the wrong players. And it pushed them to a limit. It's not because the money wasn't there and didn't continue to be there. They could have kept spending, but PSR just cut their legs away basically. And they were doing all the right things. Just look at the stadium. They're building a new stadium. They're trying to be upwardly mobile, and that's the biggest frustration about English football at the moment, that everybody's starting to realise. And it's Turkey's voting for Christmas is that most of these Premier League football clubs who are upwardly mobile voted in favour of these PSR rules in inception, however long ago they were, and it was quite some time ago, more than a decade ago I think, and then have continued to vote in these mini changes that have happened as well. It doesn't make sense unless there's a trade-off that we don't know about.
Yeah, it does feel like a protection of the big clubs. I think it's easy for us to sit here and moan now because a few years ago, actually PSR rules probably wouldn't have even came the conversation at Newcastle. But that's because they were so backwards in terms of ambition, and it's such a shame that a club that's got so much ambition is so restricted. And they've got a box clever, and we've got to do these videos talking about potentially signing Bruno Guimaraes.
We'll be talking about this if PSR wasn't a thing. And PSR being a thing, we're talking about it now.
We're on it now, we're going to have to keep going.
PSR not being a thing is probably not the answer either. There has to be something, I think, to ensure that there isn't a wild owner comes in and spends well beyond means and causes all kinds of problems for one of the crown jewels in English football, or any team for that matter. But we're talking about Premier League in particular, so we're only really talking about the top 20 teams. There has to be something. I think if you open the doors fully, would you then just go and see Manchester City infinitely spend and make it so unattainable for anybody else to even get close to them that it is anti-competitive? There potentially has to be something. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not an expert in this field, but I do think without it, I think Newcastle United will be much closer to getting to where they want to go and challenging than with it, because with it almost dilutes the whole takeover and the financial power to a point where it was talked about as a 5 to 10 year plan by Amanda Staveley. I think it feels very much, and I think football affects that. The fact Newcastle have been poor for a few months kind of dampens your mood, and I think fans probably feel that. But it does feel a lot more unattainable and distant today than what it probably ever has in this whole 2.5, nearly 3 years since the takeover. But back to Bruno. I think he's the man, and it would be the last thing on my list, being brutally honest. Unless it was absolutely impossible, unless we turn around in the summer and we have those little chats again with Darren Eales and others, and it's made perfectly clear to us that there is no chance of Newcastle spending a penny unless they do this deal. Then I think, for me, I think there's got to be another way.
Yeah, there has. It puts you in a predicament if Darren is going to say that. would you accept selling Bruno to go and sign other players? And it's a really difficult thing to try and get around for me, because I just think Bruno should be the one that's left alone. Put Isak in that category as well. I think anyone below that is probably what you should be looking to sell. Again, I've named the players. I think in terms of value this summer, I think there's two obvious players, and I think it's Almiron and Wilson, particularly Almiron, because I think the interest from Saudi will probably still stand. And I think in terms of his stock, it's probably dropped since last season, but his stock this summer is probably going to be the highest it will be.
I don't think it's going to get any higher.
No, that's what I mean. So I think that position as well is such an obvious position to strengthen on that right hand side. So there'll be so many more players before Bruno. And I hope the club realise that as well. But if we were all talking about this, if someone wants to activate that release clause, I think Newcastle are pretty powerless, to be honest.
That's the difference, isn't it? If somebody comes in and activates the release clause and it's somebody wants to go to, and there's no complaints, nothing can be done, then you've just got to react, and you've got to make sure they get the best possible players in through the door that they can. I think that's what they're just going to have to be aware of. They're just going to be aware this summer that they might need to react.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting anyway.
I think they're going to have to sell someone this summer. I'm seeing top players that journalist said to Bruno yesterday. I think, as you mentioned at the start, it's probably going to have to be similar to Alan St. Maxim's situation. How can you go from being able to spend very little in January to then all of a sudden 6 months later being going, right, we're going to throw 100 million on it? Somebody's going to have to give. And I do have a feeling that there will be. Just as a cat comes me out at the door.
Probably a good time to close it.
It's a black cat as well. I've lost my track there. What was I saying? I lost my track.
So it's not unlike the Geordie journals to go off on tangents
never.
And be distracted by other things. My phone went off at the start. I think he's like that character. I mean, I don't know if there's nothing that you can remember or you need to add. I think we'll just wrap that up. 20 minutes is probably enough for us.
I've just had a complete tangent and got distracted by a black cat.
You can probably hear that wind in the background as well. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, no. So I remember I was talking about probably having to sell a player, whether it's a top class player. Don't necessarily think that's the case, but I do think there'll have to be some leg room where that's selling a player or potentially letting. I don't know, the wage bill's a big thing as well. You know, they've got players who are out on loan that who Newcastle still contribute a lot of wages to. I'm going on proper tangent here, but I think there needs to be a few people off the books before they can maximise their total spending. The budget this summer, we're not totally sure what it'll be yet, but I do think selling the player obviously will help Newcastle spend more naturally.
Right. On that note, we'll go and try and survive the winds outside. Maybe let the cat in. Isn't that your cat?
It's not my cat.
Oh. Oh, I was just saying.
Do you think I have a black cat?
I was just saying hello. Right. On that note, like, comment, share, subscribe. You know what to do. We love you guys interacting as well. Try as much as we possibly can in the spare time that we get to make sure we keep that conversation going. I really value it. I think it's good to hear back what you guys think of the videos, what you don't like. We don't take it personally. But it's good sometimes just to get that feedback and tell what you want, what kind of videos you want. Still got another week left of the transfer window. You're out of action actually, aren't you? A little bit next week.
I've got some rare time off, I would say.
Yeah.
So
well deserved.
thank you.
So yeah, you might just get me and Dom doing a bit of PSR, but you had your say today.
Yeah, we said we wouldn't talk about PSR. We haven't gone into depth on it, but we did touch upon it about my frustrations anyway. I'm sure you guys will do a good job on it when you meet next week to do it.
I might rant. There might be a rant or two on there.
You do?
I am. Right, like, comment, share, subscribe for all Geordie Journals content. Jordan will next see you at Press. No,
I think it'll be West Ham.
At West Ham, won't it? Be the West Ham game. Jordan will see the West Ham game, and I'll probably see you for a bit of a PSR rant chat next week. Like, comment, share, subscribe for all Geordie Journals content.